I wanted to share my thoughts today a little bit on people that seem to want to control everything around them. Because I know you probably, if you're watching this video, know somebody that needs to be very much in control, tries to control the situation, the environment, the people, others' opinions, highly controlling, and needs to have everything their way. And you yourself, if you really sit back and you think about it and you give yourself some space to reflect, you actually might be one of those people. Although you might be doing it in a very subconscious way, you could be manipulating those around you. And I know when you hear the word manipulate, you might feel a little bit activated, but like, I don't manipulate people. I know people that manipulate people. That's not me. I don't identify as that. But I want you to know that you could be doing this very subconsciously and not even be aware of it. And it could come up in little ways. Like for me, I can be very controlling about the lighting. Okay. This is one of those things for me that like I insist on the lighting being perfect. I like a kind of, I don't want it to be too bright. I don't like it to be too dark. When I'm watching a movie, I need to make sure that one light is on because I know I'm going to be going to, like, I know I'll go to sleep if I don't, but I'm really particular about the light specifically. And I try control lighting around me all of the time. Now, this is one of those really kind of small examples about how I need to be in control of something very specific in my life. And while that might seem silly and you might think, what's the big deal? It drives other people nuts around me. I know for sure. There have been a couple people in my life that's like, oh, there Denise goes with the lighting, but that is an element of control for me. And when we're talking about control, and when we're talking about people trying to control things, now I've just given you a very small example of something that's personal in my own life, and I think now that I'm even sitting down and reflecting about this personally, I can see where the roots of this are. So let's break this down. A lot of people, what they're doing when they're controlling those around them is they are trying to control a net of safety, okay? And if this is you, if you're a person and you know and you have admitted just right now as you're watching this, I like to control everything. I like to be in control. I want to do the driving. I want to do the cooking. I want to pick the shows. I want to, make sure we only talk about topics that are safe for me. If you are fully admitting right now that you are a person that needs to control everything, I'm going to break down a little bit as to why. And I'm not talking about setting boundaries for yourself. That is an entirely different piece of the puzzle. And I don't want you to confuse boundaries with being in control. So if you're someone that grew up in a very unpredictable household, meaning maybe you had one parent that you never knew what you were going to get from them. One day they would be loving and kind and caring and passionate, and the next minute they would be ripping your head off and they would be screaming and yelling, or they would be completely unwilling to give you any sort of love, any sort of affection. If you had a highly unpredictable parent in your life, you probably grew up in a very disorganized way, meaning you never knew what was coming at you. So by controlling the environment, and you probably learned to do this when you were really young, and this could come about even controlling yourself and being a people pleaser. And because we know that people pleasing is definitely a trauma response, because you're trying to ensure that everybody around you is very happy and they have nothing to be upset about. But if you're someone that's controlling everything around you, what you're trying to do is make a bubble of safety, meaning you're trying to make things a little bit predictable for yourself. So if you're only talking about certain topics, and you're only eating certain food, and people are only allowed to talk about certain topics and all of this stuff, you know that you are safe, and you know that your environment has then become predictable. And if the environment is predictable and you are safe, then you know that you're okay. So I want you to be a little bit kind and compassionate to yourself, especially if you're someone that identifies as a person that's controlling. There is a reason behind this. And if you can sit with this, because maybe this isn't even something that's come to your conscious mind, it could be buried deep in your subconscious. But if you can think back to when you started these controlling behaviors, when this kind of started to become something that you couldn't avoid, then once you've got that, like, this is when it came into my life. And then if you can start thinking about, okay, well, why am I doing this? Like, what does this bring me? What is happening here? What's the story underneath? What's the underlying story? You might come to find that, yes, maybe you came from a very unpredictable household, or maybe you had a caregiver, like maybe you had a babysitter that you never knew what you were going to get from that person. They were either up or they were down, and you never knew. So you learned to control yourself. You learned to control the environment to ensure that you were a-okay. So I want you to have a little bit of caring and compassion for yourself. And same goes for the people that are highly controlling in your life. Now, if this is highly controlling to the, where it's borderline abusive, obviously you need to protect yourself first and foremost. And you need to either get out or tell a friend or whatever the case may be. This is not what we're talking about. I'm talking more about kind of surface level things, and be really mindful that the person that is trying to control all these aspects likely has something deep inside them. They could have an anxious attachment style, meaning that they are fearing like rejection, or they're fearing, you know, abandonment, and by controlling everything around them, they ensure that everything is fine and they can breathe and they can rest. So be really, really mindful about that as well, and send a little kindness, love, and compassion to people, especially if they're struggling with elements of control in their life. And if you are someone that actually struggles with elements of control in your life, that is something that can be addressed. That is something that can be worked through either with a coach or a counselor. As you know, I'm a therapist myself. If you're a woman and you are watching this and you struggle with control, I have supported a lot of different clients through that and moving through that and understanding it. And it is something you can be that you can start to let go of, that you can start to release, but it takes a little bit of understanding and it takes a little bit of internal work to get there, but it can be done. So if you're struggling with that, please reach out to me, please let me know, and we can certainly discuss what the options are. But again, be very kind to yourself, especially if you're controlling. I know for me, in terms of the lights, I've always been scared of the dark. So if I have the lighting just so, then I know I'm safe. I know I'm okay. So that's just a small example. But again, I hope it paints a picture of what control can look like on a smaller scale without you even realizing it. But if you have any questions about control and you want to discuss them with me, I'm always an open door. Please feel free to reach out. But with that, I hope you are happy, healthy, and abundant. And of course, make it a great day. Make it a great day. Make it a great day. I don't know where I'm running to. Running to safety. Okay, let's get to it.